We've been taught to run from the dark, to fear it, to push it down, mask it, override it with mantras and fake smiles and social media highlights. We've been taught that shadow is the enemy, that pain is a problem, that if we just stay positive, stay grateful, stay high vibe, we're going to manifest our best life and avoid the suffering. But what if I told you that's the greatest lie in modern spirituality? What if I told you that everything you think you know about shadow pain is not only wrong, it's backwards? That the very thing you've been avoiding, dismissing, medicating, or bypassing is actually the key to your liberation? Let me take you back to the beginning, your beginning. Before you were taught to be afraid of your darkness, you felt it, you knew it. You cried when you were hurt. You screamed when something wasn't right. You didn't edit your pain. You didn't apologize for your feelings. You were raw, real, alive. Then slowly, the world started training you. Dan seri Greek diega too much. Be strong. Don't be angry. Stop being sensitive. Every time someone told you to suppress your shadow, you internalized one core idea. My pain is a problem. And that idea? That's where the fracture began. That's where you started to abandon parts of yourself. Not because you were weak, but because you were trying to survive a world that didn't know how to hold depth. But here's the truth that almost no one wants to say out loud. Shadow pain is not the enemy. It's the messenger. It's sacred. It's intelligent. It's the voice of the parts of you that were forced underground. And when you ignore it, it doesn't go away, it mutates. It shows up in your relationships as sabotage. It shows up in your body as chronic disease. It shows up in your mind as anxiety, depression, emptiness. You can light all the candles, pull all the oracle cards, chant all the affirmations, but if you haven't met your shadow, you're just building a spiritual castle on a foundation of denial. We've created an entire culture that treats pain like a glitch in the system. But pain isn't a glitch, it's the signal. It's the alarm. And when you listen, not with fear, but with reverence, you begin to decode it. Every shadow has a story. Every wound has a root. And if you go deep enough, you'll find that your pain is not just trauma, it's truth that was never allowed to live. It's the part of you that remembered injustice when others called it normal. It's the part of you that knew you were powerful when the world told you to shrink. Shadow is not your brokenness. It's your buried brilliance. So why do we keep running from it? Why do we keep sedating, ignoring, and bypassing it? Because the system taught us to. Not just the external system, the internal one too. Your ego was built to protect you from discomfort. It wants control. It wants certainty. And shadow work? It's messy. It's unpredictable. It dismantles identities. It threatens the nice little boxes we've built for ourselves. But if you want freedom more than comfort, you have to let go of the illusion that healing is clean. It's not. Real healing is wild. It's primal. It's a storm that comes to tear down the false self so the real one can emerge. Think about it. When was the last time you sat with your pain not to fix it, not to escape it, but to understand it? When was the last time you asked your rage what it was protecting? When was the last time you asked your sadness what it needed to say? Most people don't. Most people spiritualize their avoidance. They turn healing into performance. But shadow doesn't care how many crystals you own or how many retreats you've done. It wants your honesty. It wants your presence. It wants you to stop pretending and start remembering. And here's where things get even deeper. Shadow pain isn't random. It's ancestral. It's collective. You're not just carrying your pain. You're carrying lineages of silence, generations of suppression, centuries of spiritual amnesia. That wound in your heart, it might be echoing the cry of your grandmother, your father, your people. And when you finally face it not with judgment, but with curiosity, you become a portal for healing not just yourself, but your entire bloodline. That's the real power of shadow work. It's not just therapy, it's ancestral alchemy. But don't misunderstand me. This isn't about wallowing. It's not about living in pain or becoming addicted to your wounds. It's about witnessing them, feeling them fully, listening to what they came to reveal. Because when you do, something miraculous happens. The pain starts to transform. The rage becomes clarity. The sadness becomes softness. The fear becomes intuition. The shadow transmutes into power. Not the kind of power that dominates or controls, but the kind that radiates. The kind that can sit in silence and still be felt across a room. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything because it knows who it is. So I ask you now, not as a challenge, but as an invitation, what part of your truth have you labeled too much? What story have you buried so deep that even you forgot it's still alive inside of you? What emotion do you fear will destroy you if you let it speak? That's where your work is. That's where your power has been trapped. And that's where your liberation begins. In the next part, we're going to dive even deeper into the architecture of shadow, how it's built, why it repeats, and why most people unknowingly keep feeding it. You'll learn how to stop looping in pain and start extracting wisdom from every shadow you've ever run from.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
We don't just experience pain once. That's the illusion. We think something happens, we hurt, we move on. But in truth, most people are living the same pain, on repeat, in slightly different costumes. A different partner, but the same heartbreak. A new job, but the same feeling of unworthiness. Another opportunity, but the same fear of not being enough. This is the loop. The invisible spiral of unresolved shadow that keeps pulling us back into the same emotional terrain until we finally face it. And here's the part that might sting. The loop isn't punishment. It's precision. It's your soul, orchestrating experiences that mirror your unhealed places, not to torture you, but to wake you up. The mind will convince you that if you just move on, you're healed. That time heals all wounds. But time does not heal what you refuse to feel. Time simply buries it deeper. The loop is your soul's refusal to let you forget what must be remembered. It's the echo of an unmet need, the ghost of a fractured identity, the suppressed emotion that still wants a voice. And until you meet it with presence, it will find a way to reenact itself through people, through events, even through your own thoughts. This is why healing isn't linear. It's cyclical. It's spiraling, and the deeper you go, the more subtle the loop becomes. But here's the secret. Every loop contains a code, a message, a sacred key. The pain isn't just a feeling, it's a portal. And if you can learn to decode it, you stop being a prisoner of your past and become the alchemist of your story. So how do we break the loop? How do we step off the carousel of suffering and start walking a new path? It begins with radical pattern recognition. You have to be willing to zoom out and ask, what keeps repeating in my life? Not just on the surface, but at the emotional level. What is the emotional signature that keeps showing up again and again? Is it abandonment, rejection, betrayal, shame? Once you name the pattern, you're no longer blind to it. You've pulled it out of the unconscious and into the light. And that's the first act of liberation. But don't stop there. You have to go deeper. Ask yourself, what story lives underneath this pattern? What belief is running the show? Maybe it's I'm not lovable, or I always get left behind, or I can't trust anyone. These beliefs are not facts. They're not truth. They're conclusions you drew at moments of pain, often in childhood. And now they've become scripts, dictating the roles you play and the people you attract. The loop continues because the belief hasn't been questioned. It hasn't been healed. It hasn't been rewritten. And here's where the work gets real. To break the loop, you must do what you've never done at the moment of shadow's return. Respond differently. If you always shut down when rejected, now you stay open. If you always run when triggered, now you stay and breathe. If you always blame the other, now you look within and ask, what is this here to show me about me? The loop breaks when your response evolves. When your awareness becomes greater than your reaction. This is the moment when pain becomes power. But let's be honest, it's not easy. The loop is seductive. It's familiar. It's safe in a twisted way. There's comfort in knowing how the story ends, even if it ends in suffering. But there's a deeper desire in you, isn't there? A hunger not just for safety, but for freedom, for expansion, for a life that isn't dictated by old wounds. That's why you're here. That's why you're reading this, because some part of you knows it's time. So let's get practical. The next time you feel triggered, not weeks later, but in the moment, pause. Don't react. Don't run. Don't numb. Just stop. Breathe. Drop into your body. Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Go beneath the story, beneath the blame. Feel the raw emotion. Is it grief? Is it terror? Is it shame? Let it surface. Let it speak. Let it move through you. This is sacred work. This is the work that shatters timelines and rewrites destinies. And then, as you feel it, ask, what is this here to teach me about myself that I couldn't see before? Maybe it's here to call you into boundaries. Maybe it's here to show you your worth. Maybe it's here to remind you that you no longer need to betray yourself to feel loved. Whatever the message is, honor it, integrate it, act on it. Because healing is not just emotional, it's behavioral. If you don't change how you move, the loop resets. But if you embody the wisdom, the pattern dissolves. And in its place, a new path opens. We all have loops, but we are not our loops. We are presence. We are awareness. We are the authors of our next chapter. And when we stop identifying with the pain and start listening to it, we reclaim something that was never truly lost, our power to choose differently. So I'll leave you with this question, one you must not answer quickly. What loop has been asking for your attention, not to punish you, but to awaken you? And what would it look like if, instead of running from it, you turned toward it with open hands and asked, what do you need me to see? In the next part, we're going to unlock the mechanics of emotional alchemy, how to transform shadow into spiritual fuel, how to turn triggers into teachers, and how to become someone who no longer fears the dark because they know how to wield it. If the shadow is where our pain lives, then alchemy is how we turn it into treasure. That's the art, taking what once broke us and making it the very source of our strength. But this isn't metaphorical. This is spiritual physics. Energy can't be destroyed, only transformed. And every suppressed emotion, every unspoken truth, every unhealed wound is energy-dense, potent, full of potential. The only reason it becomes toxic is because we avoid it. The moment we face it, feel it, and move with it consciously, it shifts. It becomes something else. It becomes gold. But not the kind of gold you wear, the kind of gold you become. Think of a trigger like a flare in the night sky. It startles you. It burns, but it's not random. It's a signal. It's the soul's way of saying, there's something you haven't seen, something you haven't healed, something you're ready to meet now. Most people react to triggers with defense. They lash out, shut down, blame, collapse. But that reaction is the invitation. It's the moment of choice. You can repeat the cycle, or you can alchemize it. And to alchemize it, you don't need to run away from the fire, you need to enter it with awareness. Let's make this real. Say someone criticizes you and your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, and you feel that punch of inadequacy. That's not just about what they said. That's about every time you felt not enough and didn't have the tools to process it. That's the 7-year-old you being told to be quiet. That's the teenager you comparing herself to everyone else. That's 1,000 small moments of pain that were never metabolized. But here's the sacred part. In that trigger, in this moment, you have a second chance. Not to erase the past, but to redeem it. So you pause. You breathe. You feel the burn in your body instead of bypassing it. And then you ask, what is this showing me about me? Maybe it's showing you where you gave your worth to someone else's opinion. Maybe it's showing you where you still believe you have to earn love. Maybe it's showing you that your inner child is still waiting for someone to say, you're enough, exactly as you are. That awareness, that's the alchemy beginning. Because now, You're not in the loop. You're watching it. You're studying it. You're extracting wisdom from it. And here's where it gets powerful. Once you feel the wound, you reclaim the energy trapped there. That 7-year-old doesn't have to keep reliving the moment. That inner child doesn't have to scream through your adult relationships. You've heard them. You've honored them. And now you can reparent them. You can breathe new truth into that old space. You can say, I see you. I hear you. And we don't have to carry this anymore. That's not just healing. That's transmutation. That's what the mystics meant when they said to become whole, you don't reject your shadows, you integrate them. But this isn't a one-time thing. Alchemy is a way of life. It's a daily practice of meeting your edges and choosing presence over programming. It means learning to love discomfort because you know it always carries a message. It means becoming intimate with your darkness because you trust that it's where your deepest truth lives. It means no longer waiting for life to be easy, but becoming so powerful in your self-awareness that nothing can destabilize you for long. That's real power, not control, not perfection, but embodied presence in the face of chaos. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean you become emotionless. It means you become sovereign. You can feel deeply and still remain centered. You can be triggered and still choose love. You can fall apart and still know you're whole. That's the paradox of spiritual mastery. It's not about never falling. It's about rising faster, each time with more grace, more clarity, more truth. Because you've trained yourself to see every breakdown as a breakthrough. Every shadow as a signal. Every pain as a portal. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What if the thing you're avoiding the most is the very thing that holds your next level of power? What if the anger you suppress is the fire you need to set a boundary? What if the fear you numb is the compass pointing you toward your purpose? What if the sadness you silence is the depth that makes your love pure? What if your shadow isn't the obstacle but the initiation? When you start living this way, you stop fearing pain. You stop fearing life. Because you know everything can be used. Nothing is wasted. Every trigger is training. Every emotion is intelligence. Every wound is a doorway. And you are the alchemist. Not because you've escaped the dark, but because you've learned to speak its language. In the final part, we'll take everything we uncovered and channel it into embodiment, what it looks like to live as someone who no longer hides from themselves, who walks through the world integrated, radiant and unfuckwithable. You'll discover the final key, how to make shadow work not just something you do, but something you are. There comes a point on this journey where shadow work is no longer something you do, it's something you are. A way of being, a frequency, a presence. You stop dissecting your pain in journals and start walking as someone who has made peace with every part of themselves. You stop waiting for the next breakthrough, the next healing, the next retreat to fix you because you realize you were never broken. You were simply fragmented. And now, piece by piece, you've come home. This is the path of the shadow walker. The one who doesn't run from their darkness but walks with it. The one who doesn't perform light but embodies truth. And truth is messy. Truth is layered. Truth is both shadow and light held in the same breath. When you become this, when you stop hiding from yourself, you become unshakable. Not because life stops testing you, but because you stop abandoning yourself when it does. To live this way, you must first make a sacred vow. I will not abandon myself, no matter what I feel. Because here's the truth, pain doesn't destroy us. Abandonment does. Every time we stuff down an emotion, deny a part of our truth, or contort ourselves to be accepted, we fracture. And those fractures become the cracks where our life force leaks out. But the moment you say, I will stay with myself through this, something changes. You become the safe space you always searched for. You become your own healer, your own home. That's the root of real confidence. Not how loud you speak or how many people follow you, but how deeply you are willing to sit with you. In silence, in discomfort, in uncertainty, and not flinch. That depth, that intimacy with yourself, it's magnetic. People feel it. They don't always understand it, but they feel it. Because when you stop hiding from you, the world feels safer to stop hiding from themselves. Your embodiment becomes permission for others. But don't confuse this with perfection. The shadow walker doesn't claim to be healed. They claim to be present. They still feel triggered. They still stumble, but they notice. They stay conscious. They don't spiral into shame. They listen. They adjust. They love the version of themselves that's still learning. That's what makes them powerful. They've divorced their identity from the illusion of being healed and married it to the reality of being human. And this embodiment, it's not loud. It's subtle. It shows up in the way you pause before reacting, in the way you listen without needing to fix, in the way your presence calms a room. It's not about having all the answers, it's about being anchored in your own alignment, even when no one else understands it. And when you live this way, life meets you differently. Not because it's suddenly easy, but because you meet life differently. You stop needing to control everything because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. You stop chasing validation because you're rooted in your own knowing. You stop fearing endings because you've already grieved the parts of you that once clung to certainty. And this trust, this groundedness, it's not built in a single breakthrough. It's built breath by breath, choice by choice, in the quiet moments when no one is watching and you choose truth over performance. So what does it look like to walk the world this way? It looks like holding your head high, not because you think you're above anyone, but because you've gone to the depths of your own soul and returned with your wholeness. It looks like speaking what's real, even when your voice shakes. It looks like loving others while staying fiercely loyal to yourself. It looks like choosing peace, not the kind that avoids conflict, but the kind that refuses to betray the soul. And maybe most importantly, it looks like not waiting anymore. Not waiting to be fully healed before you show up. Not waiting for every shadow to be resolved before you step into your purpose. Not waiting for the fear to vanish before you move. You walk with it. You dance with it. You lead with it. Because now you know the shadow isn't in the way. It is the way. So I'll leave you with one final question, one that only you can answer, and only in the silence of your own inner temple. What would your life look like if you stopped hiding from any part of yourself? What would it feel like to live with nothing left to suppress? No mask, no performance. Just you in all your mess, your magic, your mystery. Because that version of you, that's the one the world is waiting for. Not the perfect one. Not the polished one. The present one. The whole one. The one who walks with their shadow, and in doing so becomes the light others didn't even know they were searching for. And when you become that, you don't just transform your life. You become a mirror that transforms the world. This is your invitation, not to ascend, but to descend into the truth, into the depth, into you. Welcome home, Shadow Walker.